let me first introduce agenda item 4B, proposed high-level program budget 2022-2023 for regional committee consultations. The relevant document for this item is ERU/RC70/INFDOC/8, development of the program budget 2022-2023 principles, approach, and timelines. The proposed high-level program budget for 2022-2023 is the second budget in the period of GPW 13, which was adopted by the 71st World Health Assembly in May 2018. The 70th Regional Committee for Europe is invited to review and provide its observation and recommendations on the global paper to inform the next version of the budget that will be submitted to the 148th session of the Executive Board in 2021. Since the global paper was only received last week, I will ask now Mr. Imre Holo to provide us with an update. Mr. Holo, who is also joining us from Geneva, is the Director of Planning, Resource Coordination and Performance Monitoring at WHO headquarters. Mr. Holo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished delegates, dear Regional Director. Under normal circumstances, the Secretariat would now present a draft proposed program budget to the Regional Committee, which would be based on a thorough member state consultation at the country level and on a bottom-up planning process. Can we go to the next slide, please? However, due to COVID-19, this consultation was not possible, was not feasible. And this delay has critical implications on the process, the timing and the approach to the program budget development as a whole. Nevertheless, a draft program budget needs to be ready and presented to the next Executive Board in January, to the 148th Executive Board. Next, please. As we are preparing this program budget, we are in historic times. On one hand, there's a unique window of opportunity and a duty to rethink the strategic direction of WHO and how we position the organization in face of COVID-19 challenges, and of course to make sure that how future pandemics can be best avoided or mitigated. As a result of that, we need to entrench and think about any changes as early as possible for greater and sustained impact, and to show that WHO is not basically rigid and is moving with the requirements of times. At the same time, we have a challenge because there's an ongoing evaluation by the independent panel, which will most likely be submitted for member states' considerations at the next World Health Assembly in May 2021, which is exactly the same time as the new program budget is also going to be presented. So our challenge or dilemma is how to reflect changes which are needed here and now, at the same time not to jump the gun and not to preempt the conclusions of the evaluation. Next, please. As we are preparing for the program budget, we have guiding principles that we would like to use in solving this dilemma and in addressing this dilemma. One is that we would like to keep that the next program budget is still member states driven, and it's still anchored in the needs of countries and the needs in global health. We also would like to apply as appropriate the already known lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. What we've learned in the past couple of months is that we have to be flexible. We have to be ready to change course. We have to be ready to listen. We have to be nimble. we have to be rigorous and consultative, but we also have to be pragmatic, and we also have to be ambitious. Next, please. What we're proposing is the following. We will present a program budget 22-23 in January for the consideration of the executive board, but we will make it very clear already now that there's an expectation that we will come back with a midterm review in May 2022 to reflect the recommendations of the independent evaluation the previous May. And these revisions will be based on emerging information, also the changing environment, but of course, most importantly, the recommendations of the independent panel should be reflected in the program budget as quickly as possible. Parallel to that, we are also proposing to extend the achievement date of the triple billion targets. As you know, the triple billion targets, together with the GPW, were set to be met by 2023. We have already seen that it's been very difficult to reach these targets by 2023. But now with COVID, there's clearly a setback that we will need additional time. And even this 2025 deadline is very ambitious, but it would give us the opportunity to align with other UN SDG reporting requirements and reporting of other UN agencies. And it's also the midterm review of the SDGs. So we thought that this is ambitious enough to keep us on track, but at the same time gives us additional 2 years to be also realistic. And lastly, we will prepare a separate paper. We're proposing to prepare a separate paper, which is in line with the resolution
Now,
73.1, which will address the issue.
Now we're going to work on a second document in connection with the resolution. We're looking at sustainable financing, and we support this.
148th session of the executive board. So what you will receive in January will have 4 components. It will look at the health impacts that WHO committed in delivering at the GPW 13, including an update on the current status of the trajectories of reaching the triple billion targets. There will be an analysis of the emerging needs, including those which were brought about by COVID-19. We will also specify what WHO will deliver. And then we will have a budget which will be in line as a starting point with the GPW 13 requirements. And that budget will be by major office and by outcome. And I will talk about that in the next slides. Next, please. In terms of the budgetary figures, as you probably remember, the GPW 13 had also included a financial estimate that was needed in order to achieve the GPW 13 objectives for the Secretariat. And this financial estimate foresaw a program budget base component for 22-23 of $4.2 billion. This would be a 7.8% increase compared to 2021. This will be the basis of our discussions. Next, please. In our current thinking, however, there are 3 elements that will have to be considered when we're putting together the program budget for 22-23. One is, as I previously alluded to, are the emerging and already known changes which were triggered by COVID-19. We're already today doing business differently. There are already changes, for example, the elements of the ACT accelerator, strengthened preparedness functions. There's many things that we're doing differently as a result of COVID. And that needs to be captured in the new program budget. This is very important. Of course, not preempting the conclusions of the review, but these are more the things that we already know and doing. The second element that needs additional consideration is very much related to Bruce's previous presentation, is that the full impact of transformation was not yet known in the transformation initiatives when we put together the GPW 13. So there are elements which have not been considered, for example, the science division, for example, the supply chain platforms, and some of the other smaller and bigger changes that are already in place or about to be implemented in 2021, and we will have to reflect them in the 22-23 budget. So that we will have to add as well. Thirdly, there are important polio transition related changes, and this is the integration of the essential public health functions in most countries. When we did the GPW 13, there was a different timeline and thinking about how the GPI program is going to be gradually withdrawing from those countries where polio is not present. The GPI program is currently undergoing a strategic discussion. There are more needs as a result of outbreaks. In certain cases, there's less funding. So they are changing the speed of withdrawing from many of these countries. And of course, that has an impact on our budget because, as you know, we are taking over these very essential and key public health functions that earlier had been budgeted and financed from polio. That needs to be done. It's not entirely in our hands. That will have to be defined by the Polio Oversight Board and how this is going to happen. But that will have an impact on the overall budget. So what we will do is that we will go through, collect carefully these three groups of additional elements. We will prioritize them. We will cost them. We will see how much savings we can generate, because obviously there's a different way of doing business lately that does produce savings and efficiencies. And we will have to see how all this will fit in within the planned 7.8% increase. And if we have to go above that, then we will go above that, but it will be driven by these three elements that I just mentioned. Next, please. Because we didn't have an opportunity to discuss the program budget in detail at the regional committees, only the process and the approach, we basically would like to use every opportunity to engage with member states, be it formal, informal, virtual, or in person. So we really would like to make sure that by the time the program budget is going to be presented, the draft program budget, to the executive board, member states will feel that they have had a chance to review it, to give us comments, and to shape it in a meaningful way. And of course, in that we would like to use existing regional consultation mechanisms, as well as consultations here in Geneva, and then of course the online forms of discussions. Next, please. This just shows basically the timeline, the proposed high-level timeline and engagement with member states, with a very strong commitment to have the program budget presented to the executive board in January, and with a very strong commitment to have full member state involvement in the process leading. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Holla. Before opening the floor for discussion, let me invite Mr. David Allen, Director of Business Operation and the Regional Office, to provide any regional perspectives on the presented global paper.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Imre, for providing a very good overview of the global mechanisms and structures. I just want to bring member states along with how we're going to be handling this and going through this in the coming months in the very short timelines that you are presented. In effect, the first deadline on our timelines is the end of October, when we're supposed to provide Euro's budget submission for the document that will go to the January EB. This is a very quick timeline, and we will be using a lot of information that we have already gathered from the changes that COVID has, and the impact that COVID has had on our implementation. We will be doing the desk reviews of our prioritization according to the GPW 13 targets. Our WRs and country offices have been very hands-on the past 6 to 9 months, and we find that them very well prepared for this exercise and to consult with the ministries as possible in order to get a first input into headquarters. Of course, our larger work in the transition that Hans described at the beginning of this session really feeds very well into the larger process that we hope will be a good document that goes to the WHA in May. We are in the last phases of our restructuring currently. At the end of this month, Hans mentioned, we will be presenting the new organogram to all staff, and then the restructures of the teams will follow during the month of October. And those new teams will be defining the new plans and new targets and priorities of the programs for 21, but also 22, 23. So in a way, the timelines for the WHI document work quite well for us. So our technical alignment is going to be on the EPW, which is fully aligned to the GPW. So we are the last region to do so. The other regions having aligned at the same time during 20 and 21. So we are allowed a bit more time, and we have discussed very closely with Imre that our details will go in for the WHA in May document. We are aiming this whole process to very much, as Hans has promised, towards a flat, fiscally responsible structure to start for 2022-23. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Let's now open the discussion on both agenda items, and namely transformation and program budget. For this, I hand back the chair to the Executive President, Dr. Brewster, as it will be easier to manage the speakers list from Copenhagen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Dr. Toy. For this discussion, both Dr. Aylward and Mr. Hollow will be available to address any questions and comments raised at the end of the list of interventions. And here with us in Copenhagen, we have, of course, the Regional Director ready to further clarify on any regional implications and perspectives related to the 2 agenda items of transformation and program budget. And the Regional Director here in Copenhagen is also assisted by Ms. Gabrielle Jacob, Special Advisor on Transformation and Organization Development, and Mr. David Allen, Director of Business Operations here at the Regional Office in Copenhagen. For the discussion, we will follow the same approach as in the previous discussions round, and I would also again like to invite delegations to observe the time restrictions for your interventions. If delegates wish to address both agenda items 3A and 3B under discussion here, They are kindly requested to do so in one single intervention while still keeping within the allotted time slots of 3 minutes. And first, I would like to invite delegations who have requested to intervene prior to our session today to take the floor. But during the interventions, I also invite other delegations not yet on this pre-established speakers list, but who wish to speak. I invite these delegations to indicate their request to take the floor by using the raise hand tool in Zoom or the chat function. I will now give the floor to the delegate of Belgium to be followed by the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. President, Director General, Regional Director, Your Excellencies, colleagues. We were looking forward to exchanging during this debate on the draft program budget 2020-23. Needless to say that we were somehow disappointed that when we learned that last week that the draft budget was not ready. And although we do understand that the current circumstances make timely delivery difficult, we expect a proper consultation of member states as soon as possible and sufficiently in advance of the Executive Board's session in February. Regarding the approach proposed in the document received on Friday, we support the solution of providing a moment of review of the budget in 2022 in order to possibly integrate changes depending on the IPPR's outcome. But, however, we will need to analyze in more detail the implications of extending GPW to 2025 before positioning us as a country on that proposal. Let me shortly share some thoughts on the transformation process now. We welcome the commitment of the regional office to the transformation process and appreciate the strengthened focus on countries. This country focus implies further thinking on the how of collaboration with countries without country offices. Belgium chose the country cooperation strategy, CCS, as a way to collaborate with WHO. A CCS allows to adopt a long-term and strategic approach on public health. In Belgium, it allowed us to come to a common and coherent view on priorities in our collaboration with the WHO, and this in close collaboration with subnational authorities. For us, recognizing the role of subnational entities like the regions in health policy could also be reflected in data analysis and reporting on the different levels wherever appropriate. In conclusion, we are looking forward for the midterm evaluation of Belgium's CCS and on a continued fruitful collaboration with the regional office on the health policies in Belgium. We thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Belgium. I now give the floor to the delegate of the United Kingdom to be followed by Germany. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on these two priority areas for the UK. We recognise this is a time of great uncertainty and competing pressures, and that the reform discussions over the past few years remain even more relevant, including resource mobilisation, human resourcing, and transparency. The uncertainty we are collectively facing makes these conversations even more important, and now is the time to maintain focus and not to take our eye off the ball. This is not a zero-sum game. Leaning in now on these key issues will help, not hinder, the organisation's ability to respond to the current and future global health threats, but help it. We welcome the progress on transformation in this region, including reform of the regional organisation to match EPW and broader priorities. We are pleased to see the initiatives focused on culture within the region. We look forward to hearing more detail as this progresses. This region and the member states in it have always been drivers of reform, and we are pleased to see this continue. Thank you also for sight of the report on transformation and country impact. I don't think it is yet what we are looking for, although I appreciate with current pressures, it is a work in progress. The current document is somewhat high-level, thematic and generalised. In addition to the numbers of reviews at country level, it would be good to have more granular detail on the findings. We recognise the themes of the mismatch between resourcing and staffing, but would expect to hear more on concrete solutions. We would also still like to see more transparency in presenting progress in delivery of the transformation agenda against its aims. We look forward to a next version in January, which gives us a clearer and more detailed picture of what is happening on the ground with a trajectory for action. We also note the paper on developing the programme budget 22-23. As this was posted so close to the meeting, we have not had time to consider in any detail. We will therefore come back with further comments at subsequent opportunities when we have had time to consider. A couple of initial thoughts at this stage. We do appreciate it is a complex landscape, so recognise the need to review down the line as a pragmatic approach. However, we do not want uncertainty to prevent activity, compounding the indirect efforts of COVID further. In addition, it is vital that Member States are consulted properly on the development of the next programme budget. We appreciate that has not been possible over the summer, as is usual, but we do need genuine input through meaningful consultation. Thank you again for the updates. We look forward to continued discussions on these important issues at both regional and global level. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the delegate from Germany, to be followed by Norway. Sehr geehrter Herr Vorsitzender, sehr geehrte...
Very much, Chair. Colleagues, the WHO is in the midst of a crisis. This crisis is by no means new. It's actually been on the cards for a number of years now, and it has been made clear through the COVID-19 crisis, and it has reached a critical point. In fact, the USA, the largest supporter of WHO, has announced that it's going to withdraw from the organization. The organization is in a direct dependence on voluntary resources and a small number of donors who steer the priorities of the organizations. The membership contributions of the member states amount to $490 billion a year, and this money is not enough to allow the organization to fund its core mandate, central standard setting activities, but also leading work in the fight against cross-border health dangers cannot be met with the contributions from member states. We continue to have unlimited expectations on the organization, but the resources that we member states provide to the organization are not sufficient to allow the organization to live up to these expectations. This cannot be the case. The COVID-19 crisis makes the situation very clear to us, and we need to use this as an opportunity to bring the international expectations on the WHO into harmony with its actual capacities. Germany is convinced that we need a stronger WHO, not just because we want to protect the world from health crisis in the future. We are therefore ready to invest in our organization and to reform it. It is an honor for me to announce that this year, we will be providing an additional 50 million euros to the WHO. We hope that other member states will also make financial contributions. It cannot be the case that the top 3 donors of our region contribute to the tune of 52% out of 53 member states. This financial dependence is not healthy. Out of the 20 top donors, only 8 of them are member states who account for 90% of voluntary contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, this simply cannot be the case. On the one hand, we cannot announce that the work of the organization is of great importance, and then on the other hand, assume that others are going to foot the bill. We need to discuss things in an open way. We need to establish what responsibilities we have as member states. We are convinced that we need to learn lessons from this pandemic. This entails that the WHO needs to be in a position with all the member states to live up to the role set forth in the Constitution. Therefore, Germany is investing in the organization. My ministry alone this year is making available 400 million euros, and this is on top of donation in kind. We are doing this in the clear understanding that we need a stronger WHO, a more sustainable one, in order to prevent health crisis. This can only be achieved if all members of the WHO in the future are prepared to support the WHO financially in a stronger way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Germany. And I'll give the floor to the delegate of Norway, to be followed by Switzerland. Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, dear colleagues, the devastating effects of COVID-19 show the importance of health preparedness. Health is at its core also a matter of basic security. WHO's role as the leader and normative authority in health crisis is indispensable. One of the main lessons of this pandemic is that we need to strengthen WHO. WHO's work in health emergencies is, however, chronically underfunded. At the same time, demands on WHO to respond to crisis were increasing already before this pandemic. Norway will provide an additional contribution to WHO for 2020, and we urge all countries to do the same. At this juncture, we should critically assess our priorities and expectations to WHO. We look forward to the upcoming discussions among member states and to the findings of the evaluations of the COVID-19 response. We should all take a step back and consider how we can contribute to a strengthened WHO and put the Secretariat in a position to deliver on priorities set by the World Health Assembly. This should inform the program budgets for 2022 to 2023, as well as planning for the longer term within the framework of GPW 13. In our view, the key is to ensure that we enable WHO to support countries in building resilient health systems. Universal health coverage is the best way to achieve the right to health. UHC does not only ensure fair access to health services, it also protects the world against outbreaks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. I now give the floor to the delegate from Switzerland, to be followed by Kyrgyzstan. Switzerland, please.
Monsieur le directeur régional, Monsieur le Président, Excellences, chers collègues, la Suisse vous remercie du rapport
to thank you for the report on the activities of the regional office with the framework of the transformation of the WHO.
Nous œuvrons depuis des années pour une ONU
For
forte,
several years now, I've been working for a stronger UN, a more effective one.
Nous saluons ainsi l'élaboration du programme de travail européen 2020
European Programme of Work 2020-2025
au niveau programmatique sur le 13e programme général de travail de l'OMS. Nous sommes également satisfaits de constater que le bureau régional s'est concentré sur la transformation grâce au programme de soutien aux pays et aux accords de collaboration PNO. Ceci dit, l'harmonisation de ces instruments et leur alignement sur le plan cadre des Nations Unies pour le développement. Il y a un an, nous avons évoqué nos soucis concernant le personnel du bureau régional qui se trouve dans de nombreux processus de transformation depuis 2011 et qu'une stabilisation serait fort souhaitable. La Suisse salue donc les démarches entreprises vers une nouvelle culture de la communication ouverte et de la participation. L'OMS doit disposer d'un budget transparent, solide, pérenne et de qualité. Seules des premières pistes vagues nous ont été présentées. Cela nous inquiète. Tous les États membres doivent avoir le temps nécessaire pour se prononcer dûment sur le prochain programme budgétaire. Il n'est pas satisfaisant de ne pas pouvoir en discuter pendant notre comité régional. Nous demandons au secrétariat de soumettre les documents nécessaires aussi rapidement que possible pour des consultations avant le conseil exécutif. Nous réservons nos commentaires spécifiques pour cet échange. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Switzerland. And I'll give the floor to the delegate from Kyrgyzstan, to be followed by Finland. Kyrgyzstan, please. Excuse me, Kyrgyzstan. I think you need to unmute your microphone and switch on the audio. Yes, please. Thank you. Excuse me, Kyrgyzstan, we do not have any sound from you. We do not have sound from Kyrgyzstan. So I will just move on to the next speaker and we'll get back to you in Kyrgyzstan once you check your microphone, please. So I give the floor to Finland to be followed by Turkey. Finland, please, you have the floor.
Honorable President, Executive President, Regional Director, Excellencies, dear delegates. Finland would like to thank the Regional Director and the Regional Office for the reports on the preparation of the Programme Budget 2022 to 2023 and on WHO transformation. COVID-19 poses unprecedented challenges to the organization to fulfill its mandate as the leading organization for global public health and the UN system COVID-19 health response. It comes as no surprise that this has extraordinary financial and operational implications. We thank the Secretariat for presenting us the state of play of the impact of the pandemic on the budgetary process as clearly as possible. There are many X factors related to the response and its social and economic implications. The upcoming recommendations of different evaluation and reflection groups will need to be calculated into the process. We recognize that the WHO transformation agenda and the Polio transformation have requirements as well. We support the overall aim of the transformation for the fit-for-purpose WHO. However, it is essential that member states receive comprehensive information on the costed activities, including those that have not been factored in the previous budget, program budget. We note the proposal of the Secretariat to extend the GPW to 2025 and look forward to the consultative process within the next months, including the potential implications to the regional planning and measurements. We recognize the challenges set by the funding structure and are particularly concerned over the implications expected as a result of the withdrawal of a key donor. We look forward to further information when possible from the Secretariat on this issue. We note that the information document on transformation refers to areas that need to be revisited and refined. We would like to emphasize the need to swiftly implement necessary changes generated by COVID-19 and avoid a continuous cycle of reform. We would be interested in hearing more about the possible lessons learned in the relation to the alignment between the WHO transformation and the UN development reform from a regional perspective. We would also be interested in the timeline of the independent evaluation on transformation. Finland has made a substantial commitment to non-earmarked co-funding to WHO, and we pledge our commitment to actively take part in finding solutions to structural changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Finland. I next give the floor to the delegate from Turkey, to be followed by Kyrgyzstan. Turkey, please.
Thank you. Regional Director, distinguished delegates, we would like to thank the Secretariat for the documents and presentations provided on both critical issues. Change starts inside. As we can see from the document on transformation in the WHO Euro, this idea has laid the foundations of Regional Office for Europe's contribution to Global Transformation Plan. As we echoed many times, the biggest asset of WHO is its staff. Therefore, we support the steps taken to enable a supportive environment and respectful workplaces, which would heighten the sense of belonging among staff. Furthermore, we also support the recruitment of a full-time ombudsman. This step would drive for a structural culture change when the presented issues are handled with the utmost delicacy and transparency. As we all know, COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the link between health and economy as well as importance of investment to health. That means remobilization of resources to close the gaps in this interdependence would increase. Furthermore, development of new program budget presents an important chance to attract earmarked fundings to chronically short-funded program areas and increase the unearmarked fundings with a right planning. With this in mind, Program Budget 2022-2023 should be built on the idea to provide WHO's best guidance to the member states and donors in their efforts to improve health and well-being, as well as to bolster the transformation of WHO for provision of tangible results. Considering the pandemic process, Turkey supports the proposal of extension of GPW 13 to 2025, which we believe would give a room for member states to lead with a stronger comeback in post-COVID-19 period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Turkey. I give the floor to the delegate from Kyrgyzstan to be followed by the Russian Federation. Kyrgyzstan, please, you have the floor.
Уважаемый господин директор Hans Kluge, уважаемый
President, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ministry of Health of the Kyrgyz Republic, I should like to welcome you and all participants of this session. I should like to thank you and your team for the tremendous work that has been undertaken. And I also thank you for the successful organization of this session of the Regional Committee for Europe. We support the WHO Transformation Program. The country office of WHO in Kyrgyzstan is a blatant example of the WHO transformations, building the capacity of specialists in the field of health policy and health management, as well as health financing and other areas. All of these things were made possible thanks to the technical support that we received from WHO. This was particularly true and evident during the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic that the entire international community is facing knows no borders. Time has demonstrated that humanity can overcome the virus through close cooperation with other countries and international organizations. We do have to learn to live with the virus. All countries need to work jointly to tackle the virus and to adapt their systems, rules, and approaches in order to tackle the virus. We are confident that we need to act jointly and to take comprehensive steps to achieve success in the fight against the pandemic. The European Programme of Work 2020-2025, entitled Joint Action for Better Health in Europe, is very complicated and comprehensive. In this regard, the Kyrgyz Republic is ready to provide multifaceted support to WHO in implementing this program. Of course, transformation within the WHO is not something that's easily done. And of course, some things must be changed and tweaked accordingly in the process of implementation, depending on the geographic position and financial and economic position of countries. Things must be tweaked accordingly, but by acting together, by taking joint action, we can achieve success and fight the virus. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. I give the floor to the delegate from the Russian Federation to be followed by Monaco. Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Regional Director, President, colleagues, I would like to thank you for the report submitted on the budget and transformation within the WHO. We note that the budget of the World Health Organization is a very sensitive topic. Against the backdrop of the emergency situation connected with the COVID-19 pandemic, we are forced to look at the modalities of the work on the budget in a virtual format. However, the Russian Federation, as always, is for a zero increase to the budget, and we are for budgetary discipline. We should also like to point out that budgetary issues need to be done in agreement with member states in advance. We also welcome the process of transformation within the European office. We draw attention to the fact that this process must be transparent in nature and must be agreed upon with all member states. The Russian Federation is ready to provide assistance to the WHO to this end and to the regional office in particular. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Russian Federation. I give the floor to the delegate of Monaco.
Thank you very much, President. I would like to thank the regional director and his special advisor, Madam Jacob, for the report concerning the transformations within the office. We sincerely hope that we will have a transparent and swift process, and one that is indeed flexible. We remain attentive when it comes to the evolutions of this transformational process, but I must say that we are on the right tracks. We encourage the office to continue along these lines. Turning now to the draft program and budget, and also the possibility of extending the GPW. Out of the sake of saving time, I would like to support the comments made by Belgium, the UK, and Switzerland. We will certainly come back to this topic during consultations, I am certain, especially in the run to the EB. We'll come back to the details regarding these 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monaco. We have now completed the list of speakers from member states, but before I close the list of speakers, I would just like to see if there are any other delegates of member states wishing to take the floor on agenda item 3A and 3B. That does not seem to be the case. Also, we have not received any requests from partner organizations to intervene at this agenda item. The Secretariat has received one statement from a non-state actor for this agenda item 3A, and this is a statement from the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. Well, that statement will be posted on the conference website. This then completes the interventions on these agenda items, and I now hand back the meeting to you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, Dr. Tsoi. We seem to have lost the connection to Kazakhstan. Just wait a minute.
Thank you, Dr. Burster. There have been a number of comments made and specific questions raised in the interventions. I will first go to Geneva for comments on the global papers. Thank you. Let me first invite Dr. Ehlert to address any questions and comments related to transformation. Dr. Ehlert, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to the delegates for the comments received on the paper. We had some very clear guidance that the member states would appreciate greater granularity on the findings of some of the reviews that have taken place at the regional level in particular, and what the specific solutions may be in that regard. We've also received a request for greater details on the progress against some of the specific aims of the transformation. There was a final request for additional information also on the budget for activities and the costs. And all of these will then be collated, all of these suggestions, with the requests that we receive from the other regional committees, and will ensure that those are captured in the revised version of the paper that eventually goes to the executive board. There was also a request for information on the timeline for the evaluation, on transformation, the independent evaluation. I can provide a short update on that. I've just been in contact with the evaluation office. The evaluation team started its work on transformation in July. They expect to have their inception report finalized and submitted to the WHO evaluation office by the beginning of October, and then to begin the substantive work of the evaluation. And the expectation is the review will be completed by the beginning of 2021, and the final report of the evaluation available in Q1 of 2021. So we would endeavor to incorporate that in the findings and recommendations in the final report that goes to the World Health Assembly in May. With that, thank you very much, President Joy, and thank you to the honourable delegates for the comments on the paper and suggestions as to how it may be improved as we go forward to the executive board.
Thank you. Can I now ask Mr. Holla to address any questions and comments related to the program budget item? Mr. Holla, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much for the strong support for WHO that was given by member states. We really appreciate that. Also, thank you for the understanding that this was not possible to come up with the usual process and the detailed program budget for your review. And I would like to reiterate our commitment that there's going to be substantial and important member state consultations starting from a few weeks from now, leading up to the January executive board in shaping the draft proposed program budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I turn to Copenhagen. Dr. Kluge, you have the final word.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for all the member states for really very, very to the point comments and suggestions. So in reply, I'd like to mention that for us in the regional office, the WHO transformation is clearly about continuously enhancing country impact in all 53 countries in our region, while building a safe, respectful and optimal working environment. This working environment, as I mentioned, for me is really to be grounded in the WHO Value Charter. I am a great supporter of the WHO Value Charter, which also means an implementation of a zero-tolerance approach to harassment, whatever form it may be. On the transformation in action, we heard clearly from you yesterday, affirming the importance of an agile, proactive and responsive regional office. And we are transforming through action to deliver the strategic priorities of the GPW 13, the EPW and the 4 flagships, with the dual objectives of country impact, but also fiscal balance. We welcome very much the comments of you member states on the cultural change in Euro. We know this is not an easy process, but I'm very, very grateful to the staff association and all the staff for going in the same direction. We are not waiting for the global shifts that headquarter outlined in the remarks on financing, HR, but as one WHO, their implementation will for us be an enabler for enhanced agility in Euro, and will continue to actively support the global WHO transformation process through the Global Transformation Team, the 3-level organization development teams and other key initiatives, including my commitment that we also made progress on the European Transformational Leadership Academy. Remember, I mentioned this to the countries a year ago. The first year is to have junior fellowships for 1 year to the WHO Regional Office for Europe in Copenhagen, train the people and then send them to the countries. And after 1 year, the people go back to the countries. The second year is for the mid-level senior people in the Ministry of Health, 6 months at the WHO Regional Office for Europe, focus on Eastern Europe. And the third level is the exchange of knowledge at a top level of policymakers on the how. How do you pursue a transformation in the countries? And we do this hand in hand with the WHO Global Academy. We would like to start the pilots of 5 countries in Q1 next year. I also appreciate the point made by President Tom Owers from the Federal Public Health Service in Belgium on the country cooperation strategy. And this is very timely because now we go into another phase of the subgroup of the SRC. Once that our new director will arrive, Dr. Gundo Weiler, on the country support, to have not only biannual operational plans, but something more strategic in a 5-year frame. On the financing, thank you very much. Dank u schön to Minister Dr. Jens Spahn for the fantastic announcement of the additional 15 million euro for 2020. This is really a huge and very concrete help, and the support of our member states is hugely appreciated. Also, thank you for reaching out to the other countries, and particularly in following the German model of financing, which is predictable and flexible, because that is really what we need. And I would like also to further strengthen this appeal of the German minister to several countries which are increasing their core contributions to WHO. That when this goes, core contribution to headquarters, that as the Netherlands is doing, Germany is doing, to have a fixed proportion for the WHO Regional Office for Europe. We don't see this as earmarking because it's flexible, but it is not the WHO Regional Office for Europe, because remember, after all, we are all European and no one is safe until everyone is safe. On the country presence, strengthening WHO's work in countries is core of the European Programme of Work, United Action for Better Health in Europe. And here I really must say that it pleased me enormously. Yesterday evening, I was thinking of the contributions of the Minister of Health of Andorra, of San Marino, that this is the motto for centuries of the small countries. It is at the heart of transformation. I mentioned about the SRC subgroup on WHO Europe's work at country level. I think we have to have a small pause, think a little bit. Where are we before making the next move? The analysis of a survey to member states with country office was finalized. I also want to give appreciation here to our external consultant, Dr. Hans Strutsen, who gave really a very, very solid contribution. We did a mapping exercise of the human resources across all country offices against, again, the 3 pillars of the EPW, GPW. So the question is, we looked in the countries with the head of country offices. Do the country offices have the capacity to deliver against all 3 pillars? And there's quite some disbalance, so we have to correct this a little bit. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to delays in advancing the planning country review activities, but it also created opportunities to increase the understanding by the countries of expected WHO support, both with and without WHO country offices. And thank you very much. I see my great friend, Dr. Giuseppe Rocco, also from the Ministry of Health of Italy. We had a team recently in Rome to see how we can also strengthen our collaboration in Italy, and the same is ongoing in Spain with Madrid. A small number of positions in country offices were identified for immediate post-creation to address critical gaps in country presence. I didn't want to wait. We know there are a number of critical gaps in country offices, and we immediately tried to fill those. Following the consultation with the member states, the conversion of international to national head of office positions was completed already in the 3 Baltic countries. This was a clear ask from the Ministers of Health of the Baltic states to have national head of country offices instead of international WRs, which for me was a very, very logical and the right thing to do. And I'm very much looking forward to continue those discussions now with the 4 Visegrad countries. An in-depth functional review process is underway in the regional office, as Mr. Allen was highlighting very well. And we want to move fast, but also consultatively. The next town hall meeting will be in September, where the detailed organogram will be discussed and shown to the staff, and then we have to implement it.
And of course, yes,
a report at Regional Committee 71, including what the colleague from the United Kingdom was mentioning on the cultural change.
The program budget.
On the program budget, the adoption of the EPW yesterday, and thank you again. This is one of the best evenings I had for a long time. It was a fantastic discussion. Thank you for the approval. Yesterday, by consensus, is a firm foundation on which to build the program budget for the next biennium, grounded in the 3 core priorities and the 4 flagships, not at least mental health. It will also be important to respond to the need to focus on preparedness and response to emergencies from all hazards. And in terms of consultation with you, the member states, number 1, we have the desk review exercise as a starting point. The WHO representatives will be consulted as all time towards the October deadline. And for the countries without country offices, the Standing Committee of the Regional Committee, of course, will be engaged, and the national counterparts in the countries. Finally, I would like to reply in one of the 4 official languages, the Russian language, to the respected colleagues, Minister of Health, Excellency of Kyrgyzstan, and Dr. Sonin from the Russian Federation.
I would like to begin by thanking the Minister of Health of Kyrgyzstan for a very clear statement and his very clear statement of support for the EPW. I am very much committed to a sub-regional approach, as indeed was described by the Minister from Kyrgyzstan. I am also very grateful for the presence of President Rosi in the Makumbaeva Committee. Thank you very much indeed. Turning now to the Minister of Health of the Russian Federation, we would like to thank you and your Minister for your clear statement of support for WHO Euro. That's something that's very important for us. I consider your support to be particularly significant when it comes to the work that is ongoing on NCDs. We know that the Russian Federation is doing a great deal for NCD monitoring and control, and I'm very much eagerly awaiting my visit to the Russian Federation next week. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a 15 minutes break now.